It was spring break my junior year of college. My friends Kevin, Ali, and Seb decided to go car camping in Colorado, seeking an isolated escape from our busy lives. With our wallets light, we opted for dispersed camping and found a remote spot near Buena Vista, tucked deep along a long Forest Service road. We were seasoned campers, used to sharing an adventure, and excitement buzzed in the air as we set up our tents close together, a loose cluster under the fading daylight. The night unfolded with laughter, cards, and the rustle of the wind through the trees as we enjoyed our beers, the flickering flames of our campfire casting playful shadows. As fatigue settled over us, we retreated to our tents by midnight. I fell into an unexpected deep sleep, unusual for me, as the sounds of nature faded away. Morning brought with it a disconcerting chill. I unzipped my tent to embrace the cool air, but my breath caught in my throat. Our tents were not where we had left them. They were arranged in a perfect square, encircling a pile of stones that hadn't been there before. Panic seeped in as I called my friends, disbelief etched on their faces as they emerged too. Each tent a solid structure, yet eerily displaced. Stakes held firm in the ground, nothing stolen, but everything felt wrong. While confusion turned into shared anxiety, Ali shared a vivid dream, mid-conversation, of walking through a desert with a disembodied voice counting her steps. It was unsettling, but Kevin chimed in with a similar memory, tied to soldiers marching. Seb and I couldn't recall our dreams, but something in the air shifted around us, a silent awareness that wasn't there before. We felt connected in a manner unnerving, as if something dark infiltrated our gathering. Determined to find answers, we stepped closer to examine the mystery, our fears amplifying with whispered fears. Then Kevin noticed the drag marks etched into the dirt, leading from our original spots to the new formations, as if someone had painstakingly relocated each tent before abandoning them just shy of their final positions. The stones intrigued us further. There were 4, balanced almost expertly, a tribute to something unspeakable. The moment Kevin nudged the top stone, it fell, scattering across the ground and releasing a low rumble, like rocks grinding beneath a great weight. The noise erupted in a wave of panic, driving us to hastily pack without a word as instinct kicked in. Our unspoken fear guided every frantic movement. Outside, we worked quickly, desperation turning to dread as sounds began to echo from the distance. They weren't whispers, but low, guttural growls that reverberated like an ancient chant. My friends moved in sync, driven by an unsettling connection that felt beyond mere friendship. Finally, we abandoned the campsite, racing towards our car, hearts hammering against our chests, minds racing through scenarios we dared not imagine. Years later, we seldom discussed that night. Conversations turn uncomfortable and strained when the memory resurfaces. Each of us has drifted apart, and life's obligations have swallowed the fleeting thought of a camping trip. But in the quiet of solitary nights, when the moon hangs high and thick fog wraps around darkness, I can't shake the feeling that we were never meant to disturb the remnants of that place, where shadows lurked just beyond the trees, an uninvited presence that may still be waiting. Imagine walking through a forest area, where the laughter of friends fades into whispers carried on the wind, and the trees close in tighter than before. I feel the weight of the stones in my dreams, how they could have bound us to some sinister, unseen spirit as we unwittingly danced in their domain, teasing the veils of time and memory. And now I am left to ponder what truly lay beneath those stones, buried far deeper than our understanding, returning to echo in forgotten valleys. My life moved forward, yet I wonder if the shadows were ever truly left behind. Was there a price for our carelessness, a debt that must be paid? What if the camping trip didn't end when we drove away? What if the night watched, the stone pile returning to its rightful place, inviting new souls to its darkened circle? Who will they be, and what will become of them? The forest had swallowed me whole. I spent 2 nights back in my apartment, pacing the halls, trying to shake off the cold terror that seeped into my bones. But sleep eluded me each time I closed my eyes, bringing relentless nightmares of shadows darting through treetops and whispered staccatos surrounding my tent. I feared I had unraveled a thread that was best left untouched. Days turned into weeks, and the vibrant sun filled the city, but living in a bustling place only amplified the oppressive silence of that forest. My friends reached out, suggesting hikes and weekend getaways, but my throat tightened at the mere thought of being away from concrete and lights. The old notebook was tucked deep in a drawer, its memory festering beneath layers of mundane responsibilities and routine. Then, a month later, I received an email that set my heart racing. Subject line: Confirmation. The message had no sender listed. It read, "We see you have the notebook. Return to the clearing. Bring nothing. Come alone." I sat at my kitchen table, feeling the heat of panic rush over me. My first instinct was to dismiss it, some sick prank, but the knot in my stomach twisted tighter, reminding me that I had stumbled into a web woven with danger. What had I done? The demented tally marks haunted me, countless reminders of the void I had brushed against in that forest. I fought the urge to reach out to the police, to confide in someone, but who would believe me? Better to keep it bottled and let the fear take root, I figured. The certainty grew in me. I needed to go back and face whatever watched me from the shadows. Under the cover of night, I loaded my truck with essentials, but the words, "Bring nothing," echoed in my head. Driving through the silent, winding roads, I wondered if I would go back only to never return. But the thought of leaving the notebook behind, a tether to a reality I could barely comprehend, filled me with dread. I arrived at the clearing under a shower of stars, the moon a wicked grin casting shadows that danced amongst the trees. The air was thick with anticipation, and I could feel their presence long before I saw them. Figures emerged where the old moldy tent had stood, obscured by the darkness, but the air shimmered around them as if a heat wave was rising from the ground. I stepped forward, compelled by an unseen force. Strangely, I felt the fear draining from me. "You wanted me," I called out, my voice steady. The figure shifted, seemingly acknowledging my words with a communal hum, like the draw of a distant chant. One figure stepped closer. It was the last thing I expected, a face familiar yet disturbingly warped, lips curled back into a grin that did not reach their eyes, a haunting reflection of my own. "You found our records," it spoke, voice like gravel sliding over glass. "You will join us." I staggered back, the ripping realization clawing at my sanity. These weren't just figments of my imagination. They were remnants of something primal lurking just beneath the veneer of nature. They had taken those who wandered too close, carrying and counting, marking time with their own. Suddenly, the wind rose, swirling and almost alive, howling a dirge for the restless spirits. I turned to run, but the clearing shifted, as if the very earth was shifting beneath me. The figures spread out, cutting me off from escape, their shadows merging into the darkness, folding and unraveling like smoke. "No!" I gasped, heart wild and pounding, my pulse synchronized with the whispered chants, and I felt my body growing heavy, tendrils of dread wrapping around me. I clawed at the ground, struggling to resist the pull. It resonated with the curse of the notes, the tally marks on bark that had called forth their hunger for souls. Their chants crescendoed, twisted words that wound around me, pulling my essence. I screamed, a primal plea lost against the veil of darkness gathering. My vision blurred, the clearing fading into a muted canvas. The next moment came as a suffocating silence, and before I knew it, I awoke, sprawled in the center of the marked grounds with the notebook clutched tightly in my hand. The whispers had dulled into ghostly echoes in the back of my mind. There was no sign of the figures. The forest had settled into an unremarkable quiet, yet the air felt charged, alive in ways I couldn't articulate. I stood, instinctively slipping the notebook into my backpack. As I turned to leave, I caught sight of the tree. Fresh cuts still marked its bark, beautifully, terrifyingly symmetrical. Each group of 7 gleamed sharply against the moonlight. A sudden understanding poured into my mind. This was home to an ancient rhythm, a dance between the living and the dead. I hadn't stumbled upon a horror. I had become a part of it. Weeks passed after that night, cocooned within the veil of normalcy. I returned to my life, grateful not to be followed by shadows, yet I could sometimes feel those familiar whispers tugging at my consciousness. Each tick of time passing replayed the chant in my ears. Who would they take next? I glanced toward the drawer where I had stashed the notebook, knowing that it pulsed with knowledge I hadn't begun to grasp. I'd met their gaze and they had recognized me. The eerie connection had solidified. Tonight, under a pale crescent moon, I hesitated before reaching for my phone. No service out here. No one to tell. The thought twisted into a tight knot, a faint smile tugging at my lips. I picked up the notebook, carefully opened it, and began to count. 1, 2, 3. They would be watching. They would be waiting. And soon they would bring others to keep the cycle alive with freshly laid markings, endlessly counting. Forever counting.